This morning, what we're going to talk about is both mindset, what I call, it's brain set, right? I had this conversation with somebody earlier this week that there isn't an actual mind. That's a fictitious sort of representation of how our brains work. It's really brain set. And we're also going to talk a little bit about body set, and we're going to support both of those today. So we're going to save a few minutes at the end for conversation or discussion, but we have about a half an hour, so I'm just going to jump on in. So how many people right now are experiencing, would you say, a lot of anxiety? Anybody? Anybody know people who are experiencing a lot of anxiety? Yeah, a lot. There are lots of people experiencing lots of anxiety. So this is going to hopefully help some of that. It's normal. I want everybody to hear that. Of course, it's normal. We're going to talk about the guilt people are feeling. I mean, some of that is a little bit obvious, but for those of you who maybe haven't thought of that, it's normal to feel that way. It's okay to feel that way. We're going to talk about what to do when you start to feel that way, how to manage it so it doesn't get away from you, and some ways you can support your nervous system, which is kind of my sweet spot. That's what I like to think about. How do I support my nervous system and other people's nervous systems so that we don't get caught and lost up into that fight or flight response? So somebody very wise, whom I know, talks about this concept of just this. And how many of you are hearing either from people you know or hearing in your own head, and I think it's all of us, what if? What if I get sick? What if somebody I love gets sick? What if, I had somebody say to me the other day, what if this really is the apocalypse? What if this is, you're thinking, wow, that's a lot to hold on to, and it can feel that way. I'm hopeful that that's not the case. It does not appear to be the case. But what if we move from what if to just this, right? Because what if is future thinking. And I don't know about you, but I can't really go there very well right now in a constructive way. Does anybody feel like they're going to what if in a constructive way? Yeah. So if you start to hear yourself or somebody you love or say, what if? We can support that a bit. People need to be able to do that a bit, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But we want to try to shift to just this, just now, just here, right? It's pulling back from that future thinking. Your crystal ball works probably about as well as mine does. Mine fell years ago, broke on the floor. It's pretty useless. So we don't know what's going to happen. But we do know what's happening, and we can connect to what's happening right now. Well, so why? What does that have to do with anything? Our nervous systems, our fight or flight emergency responses, which for all of us are up here at the moment, of course, those systems are going to be at the alert. We're trying to just help ourselves climb back out of that. So by telling yourself, when you hear yourself saying, what if? Write this on a piece of paper if you can, stick it on your wall, stick it on your fridge, talk to people about it, come back to just this, just now, just here. So take a moment and look around and see what is your just this, just now, just here. Look around your room. This is exactly what you can start to do when you start really feeling worried. And you can teach this to other people too. Use all of your senses. Right? Because our sensory systems are our direct pathway to those emergency responses in our brain. Take a look around. What do you see? What do you smell? What do you hear? What can you touch? If you're lucky enough to have a snack in front of you, please take a bite. If you have a cup of coffee, take a sip. Anything that helps you connect to your senses right now. Yes, drink up, everybody drink up. Excellent. Oh, we've got a kitty in the picture, right? So really feel the fur of that kitty, right? My dog has been a real snuggle bug, so she'll come up several times a day. I don't get to do this at work. She'll come up several times a day and stick her nose right up under my lap, so I'm rubbing her head as I'm talking to people. So Anything that helps you bring yourself just into the moment. I can't emphasize that enough. Practice that several times a day. The last time you want to practice these exercises is when you're at that height. You're not going to be able to find it very well. Take a breath, let yourself take a couple of deep breaths if you can, and throughout the day, practice throughout the day. The more you practice it, the brain is user-friendly. The more you use it, the more you use it, the more you can use it, the more you can do it. So just keep doing it, keep doing it, keep doing it, and it will be more available to you. So we started talking about how lots of people are anxious, lots of people are scared. That's just reality. You know, a lot of times when I'm working with folks, we're talking about things that seem like they probably won't happen. And the truth of the matter is, statistically, most of us, the bulk of us, are going to come out of this okay. But it's also really scary for a lot of people for genuine reasons. So there's no scenario here where we can say, you're just making too much of that. So we need to find a way to let that be there in a contained, manageable way, right? Because one thing I know of 35 years of psychological practice is the more you just shove something aside and pay no attention to it, it will come out sideways. You'll be irritable, you'll be anxious, you'll be unpleasant to be around, you're gonna feel crummy, right? Crummier. So what I'm suggesting that you do is give yourself some space to feel it, to think about it briefly. And I mean briefly. So why briefly? Well, what we know is, from what we were just talking about, the more your brain does something, the more it will do it. So if you spend too much time thinking about it, it's easy to go down that black hole. I mean, I was talking to a client about this week, and I said, hang on a second. What I'm hearing, it's like you opened the door to the basement, you turned off the light, you've pitched yourself forward and started rolling down these stairs, and they felt like they were lying at the bottom of the stairs in a dark cellar. I get it about how people are getting there and why it makes sense to me, but obviously we don't want you to go there. So when you feel yourself reaching for that door, hold your hand on the door. That doorknob might be, I'm really scared for these people that I know. I'm really scared for people I know who work in healthcare. Maybe you have a brother, a sister, a parent, a friend, somebody who's working in healthcare. You're worried for them. That's understandable. Let yourself have that moment. We're grieving for the world as we have known it, right? I should actually right now be in Costa Rica on a beach, just FYI, or in a jungle, but I'm not. So, you know, we've had to grieve that, but it's like, you know, it's an easy situation to say, well, but look, yeah, you could be in Costa Rica, but guess what? You're working this week. You still have income, so you don't get to feel that way, right? Or, well, you're healthy and you live with people, so you don't get to feel that way. You could be alone, you could be sick, you could be at a hospital, you could be dying. You know, notice what you feel in your stomach when you go down that road of, well, you can't really feel that way. Yeah, I notice it in my stomach. Some people might notice it in their chest or elsewhere. It feels lousy, right? It's not like that feels good. Now we've just shamed ourselves out of normal feeling. Okay, so take a breath with it, acknowledge your worry. You get to have some sadness. You don't need to shame yourself. This is a situation where both can be true. And that's the invitation for you. How do you let both be true? Have your gratitude, have your sadness, have your gratitude, have your sorrow about where the world is, have your gratitude, have your worry for the people that you love. But hopefully what you can do is touch into those places and then back yourself out again. And so what I'm encouraging people to do is literally set a timer, because it's so easy to slide down into those places. Give yourself, this is going to sound ridiculous, but 30 seconds. 30 seconds of suffering is a lot. So give yourself about 30 seconds just to notice it. Make sure while you're doing that, you don't stop breathing. Breathe through that place. What do you want to say to those people in your mind? What do you want to send to them? Now, whether that's spiritual, whether that's literal, who knows? But it actually helps us feel better. So talking about gratitude, I mentioned the word gratitude a few times. There's lots of science, and anybody who knows me knows how much I love the science of the brain. There's a lot of science, a lot of neuroscience at the moment that is, and this has been available for people for a very long time, supports the idea that one of the best things you can do for your brain is sit in gratitude. That is a tough ask right now, right? A, because of shame, B, because of fear, all those things we mentioned. So I'm going to give you a couple of specific ways that you might structure that. Because to sit down with a blank page right now might feel like you don't even know where to begin. So there was a study that was done by Dr. Martin Seligman. I'm going to admit somebody else here. Barbara's coming. Martin Seligman, he is at the University of Pennsylvania. What Dr. Seligman discovered with these 411 people, he used lots of different what are called positive psychology interventions. And this is what he found. The one exercise that unfailingly seemed to help people feel better was where they sat down and they wrote a letter, these days it might be an email, to someone who had never been properly thanked for some kindness that they had extended. You can think back anywhere in time to anybody you know, someone who you would like to thank. And we're thinking about how this affects people's neurochemistry. What we're stimulating when we're in gratitude is serotonin, which we know is the natural neurotransmitter that drugs like Prozac and Zoloft and all of the antidepressants help support in the brain, and also dopamine, which is a salient well-being neurohormone in the brain, neurochemical in the brain. Gratitude has been documented repeatedly to help support that and produce more of that in your brain. So what they found with people who were doing this particular exercise was that the benefits lasted in their brains for months. I think that's something we need right now. So it was a simple exercise, sitting down and writing notes, writing letters to people whom we feel could use a thank you. Maybe you're sending something off to medical professionals right now. That's a great way to do it. But the real bang for the buck here was to somebody that we know. So it's personal. It's sending it off to somebody that we know personally. But if you want to do this with medical professionals or other people who are on the front lines right now, I personally want to walk one up to, were I going outside very much, to the person who runs the little itty bitty grocery store in our neighborhood, who is keeping the doors open and packing up carts for people and letting people drive up. I think I might do that, but I also want to do this with people that I know because I trust that that's going to help support my brain. So that's one. The other is just the sort of typical gratitude journal. Why does that help people? Same thing. Sitting down and spending focused time on saying, I appreciate that this happened today. Now, the one piece that I would add to that, because we can get really stuck on, well, it's day 5 and I'm in the same house and I'm kind of with the same people and the day looks kind of the same. I'm kind of running out of things to be grateful for. You can also subtract things out. I'm grateful that this isn't occurring. I'm glad this is. I'm hoping this will. All of those support the same structures of the brain. So I would encourage that as well. So the last thing I'm going to recommend for today, and then we're going to open this up for some questions and some comments. Some of us are living alone, and that really presents its own challenges. I've talked to several people in the last couple of weeks who are living by themselves, and all of the public health announcements are saying, reach out to people you know who are living alone. We're doing a Zoom birthday party for my brother next week. There are lots of things that we can try to do to help connect. It's not the same as being live. So if we're fortunate enough, and not everybody is fortunate in whom they're living with, right? I mean, that's the other thing. We're like, yay, you're living with somebody, maybe. So I'm thrilled for you. I feel really fortunate that I live with whom I live with, thank goodness. My boys are teenagers. They like each other because 2 teenage boys, it could be ugly. It's not, thank goodness. But if you're struggling at all with somebody that you're living with, or you're struggling even with somebody you're not living with, figuring out how to communicate some gratitude to them each day is, again, it's really supportive of both people's brains. And there's research to support this too. So if I say something that I'm grateful for to one of my sons, you know, maybe he'll come in here later and he'll help me figure out this tech better. Or I go downstairs and lunch is ready for me. Making sure that I express that even in the midst of all of my busyness and carrying all the other worries that I have or all the other things I'm thinking about, that's huge. So I would encourage that too. Just a simple gratitude to somebody with whom you live or somebody with whom you're connected. That person who's taking the time to check on you if you're one of those people who's living alone. The kitty that you're living with, well, your brain doesn't care if it's a kitty or if it's a live human or your dog or your goldfish or whatever else is there. Your brain will still benefit from that. And I think the kitties will too. So we're going to practice one other quick exercise. I think I said it was one before, but I'm going to sneak another one in because that's how I roll. I wanted to invite you to do something that's called calming place. And we really are just going to take about 2 or 3 minutes to do this. Some people call it peaceful place. Some people call it safe place. I would say right now, finding a safe place is a little bit of a challenge, but get yourself comfortable if you can in your chair or your sofa or wherever you are. I'm seeing some people sort of settling in. That's great. Get yourself comfortable. We talked last week, for those of you who were with us, about taking some nice breaths. You know, I'm not going to be a micromanager about how you breathe. I just encourage you to do so. The deeper, the better. The more you can push out using your diaphragm, the better. So do this with your eyes open or closed. It's your call. But once you're comfortable, the invitation is let yourself imagine being in a place that is calm or comfortable for you. It might be exactly where you're sitting. It might be the beach you visited last year. It might be someplace you remember from being a kid, but it's a place where there's only good feeling. It is all good. And start dialing into that place with all of your senses. What do you see? Or hear? Or taste? What do you smell? Yeah, let this really expand inside of you. In your mind's eye, look around you as much as you can. Breathe in as deeply as you can. Take some nice breaths right here. And if you feel like it, take a moment to put your hands on your thighs, on your knees, wherever, and just do a little bit of tapping on either side. Right leg, left leg, right leg, left leg. What the science says is this tapping, and if you're holding your kitty or else you're a child, one hand going on one leg and then the other is fine, but the science says this just really helps embed these experiences deeper into our system, makes them more accessible. So just take a couple of more breaths here in this comfortable place, knowing that you can go here anytime. Take another breath. Let it all the way out if you can. Use your diaphragm to contract if you can. And when you feel ready, open your eyes back up. We have one person, Eileen, who's going from her Juniper Center background to a beach. I don't know if you all can see her. She's sitting on a beach right now. It's pretty funny. That's great. If you have Zoom, you can put up a virtual background, and I would advise that too. Let yourself sit on the beach today. Just watch yourself sitting on a beach. All right, so at the moment, there are several of us on this call. You know, this is the sort of thing you can do to connect with other people. I think you can do this on the free Zoom account as well. I know there's a lot of platforms. So right now we have, I think we have 13 people. You can do this if you have other people you can connect with. It's kind of a nice way to do this. We're doing this for our staff meetings right now. So we all get to be together. We get to talk about what this is like, some of the challenges we're having. So I would encourage you to try to see what tech is out there that can support you, either being on a beach like Eileen or having a meeting like our staff. So we're also using this platform for virtual therapy at the moment. You certainly don't have to do this with us, but there's a lot of need right now. And it's part of the reason I'm grateful to be able to work, is it feels like there's something very meaningful that I can do. And I think we can do this in our own communities too. But we have virtual therapy available. Lots of therapists are online right now, not just us. So if that's something you think you might benefit from, we'd be happy to help you find somebody either with us or elsewhere.